thumbnail?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it does first. It takes a thumbnail on Chrome, and then you just click go live. That's it.
And that's the Google Go Live.
Yeah. And we're live.
Chrome. Okay.
Hey guys, how you doing? Look who I got.
Got me.
Got
AfriSynergy.
T-West.
Yes. We just got through doing something.
Urban Game
incredible.
Changers.
It was really incredible.
Washington, D.C., huh?
Yeah, a lot of different people, a lot of different cultures. So recently, you guys know we've been talking about all of us getting together. Who's out there? Start typing. Who's there?
Freedom Work, my man.
Freedom Work. Hey, look who I got on my show. Hey, ladies. Look, watch this part. The things that women dream about, they can't do on the camera.
Yes. We better shut her down. Right now.
Shut her down.
She's going.
So anyway, we had a great time. We were in Washington, D.C. at Oohs and Ahs off of Georgia. Shout out to Chef O. They did an amazing job. We had some good food. What we eat, you guys?
Oh, we had chicken wings.
Mm-hmm.
Some good macaroni and cheese. Nice sweet cornbread. The cornbread was sweet like cake. It was really good.
Yeah, that's sweet cornbread.
And some greens.
And the butter was melted. That was different to serve it like that, huh?
I didn't have
the butter either.
Yeah, I didn't have the butter.
Well, I tell you got the real treatment there.
Yeah, hot sauce, melted butter. I was like, bro, where's all these special little treats?
I guess I didn't get over to your table. I'm sorry.
But it was all good. Food was delicious. It was an Oz, folks. It was an
Oz.
Black owned.
Yes.
Yeah, black conservative.
Mm-hmm.
We had two or three black owners on the panel. And we also had Tabitha Clark, who has a coffee shop. What's the name of the coffee shop?
Oh gosh,
Who's got a car? Who got a car?
I got a car.
Wait a minute, hold on. As y'all pop in, how you doing? How you say that name?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, we got Griddle, but we got Priddle. Pretty.
More than Java Cafe.
Very interesting. Oh, more than Java. Okay, hold on. More than Java Cafe.
It's backwards, but you guys get the picture.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about Black-owned businesses, Black opportunity for Black people. Let's talk about the first section. Kenneth talked to you guys, and he asked you, Husar, shout out to him. He went to bed early. But Kenneth was our moderator. Lauren, who is my CEO assistant, she is fabulous. She was there, and we talked about illegal immigration. But let's start from the beginning, gentlemen. We talked about at the beginning, what is Black? How did you think that conversation and how that go over with the audience?
I thought it went over quite well. What is Black? And defining what Black is. Because when you define what Black is, you cannot help but to come up with what Black is, and that is the strength of your Blackness. Oftentimes people focus on the weakness, and they talk about the weakness of your Blackness. But Blackness is a good thing. Universe is Black. You go out into outer space, it's all Black out there until you run into some stars, but you're going to be going for some star years to light years before you do that.
That's right.
So it's all Black in between.
We talked about being born Black American through indigenous slave tribe. That was number one.
Yeah.
The other one we talked about was Black who were born Black here. Like you had immigrant parents who migrated here illegally, and then you were born here. You might be first, second, or third generational Black, and then you had people who were just immigrants. They just came here, and they don't have any children. They weren't born here. They're just Africans or some type of Black descent. So, do you feel it was important that we clarify that, or it really didn't matter?
Well, I thought it was very important that you clarified that, and it's also very important that you look at ways to. I mean, you talked about how other ethnic groups are able to attach to where they came from. They came from China. They came from Korea. Lots of those people, they're doing business here. They have connections back. And I think it's very, very important for us as Black people, as African Americans, whatever y'all want to call yourselves, for us to also be able to connect back so that we have an economic base where you have some of these goods.
Well, I agree with that.
I mean, I needed something for my hands today. And you gave me what?
What? Shea butter.
Shea
I
butter.
did. I
Shea
gave you some
butter.
shea
That's
butter.
right. Shea butter.
You were dry. I had no Vaseline. Old school Black people. See, Americans who didn't have that African access like we do now, we didn't do shea butter. We had Vaseline.
I got that.
And then if you get some old Black people, you use Crisco.
Oh, I know what you're
You
doing.
put
That Crisco.
Crisco.
Yes.
All right, quiet man. What's your intake on being Black? You got white people following you. They like you. White people like you.
I mean, what the take on being Black from the show, what I got from it was that it's not just a one way to look at it. It's a lot of different ways you can look at it. It's not just, putting us into a box. That's why I try to get across a lot. It's about being Black. You can be Black and be different. You don't have to be the same as the next person. You can all be individual. But one thing I always want to say is that a lot of us have a lot in common. People from all over the world that happen to be Black, we have a lot in common. You want to have these little divisive little groups, but we should all be working towards a common goal, which is for the advancement of Black people. So
I totally agree with that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that. Okay, then we talked about immigration. You guys said you all got a little bit of nuance on that perspective. We've talked to each other privately and on each other's shows about immigration to some extent. But today we felt enlightened. I will say this much. The interesting part for me was that the audience was very intrigued with all of us. You do these things and you're hoping that you can hold people's attention. I mean, we basically were in there from 6:30 to 10 o'clock at night, and very few people left. I mean, they stayed afterwards, they talked, and we had amazing food. But, immigration, we found out that for me being in California, it's like, you might as well just send a National Guard in. It's crazy. But there were other people who say they start to feel the effects. And so it's just preparing people for those effects were discussed. What is your take on that?
Illegal immigration, it has had a big effect on African-American communities first, because that is usually where the trouble starts. It starts with the weakest link. And it so happens to be that the weakest link across America is usually in African-American communities, economically, socially. So it's easier for other groups to penetrate those areas and also to economically advance themselves in those areas. So that has to be addressed. We need to address that. Or, as I always say, they're going to eat your cake.
That's right. Now, one thing I learned about illegal immigration from Shirley over here was about the whole thing with Disneyland. We're talking about that story blew my mind. She was talking about how you get these legal immigrants, right? A lot of these very small people that come from south of the border. These are adults now, but they're small. They went to Disneyland, and then, these guys not inoculated, no kind of shots. They're coming over there with all kind of diseases. And that's why you had, what was it, the measles outbreak? Yeah, the measles outbreak. These guys are wearing these costumes, they're wearing the mask, they're breathing in all this stuff in it. And then the next person comes and wears that same thing. Now they got the measles and so on and so forth. And I never even heard a story before, but stuff like that is what happens. People don't have any. You got tuberculosis happening in, Minnesota. You got the plagues trying to come back. I think they had an episode of the plague that happened in Arizona, and nobody put two and two together and said, wait a minute, maybe that's some illegal, just that it is a border state. Nobody said anything about that. It was just like, oh, it was a random couple. Or maybe they came from south of the border, had not been inoculated, and started having diseases back where they came from, and they brought it to the United States. So if you don't want to live in a place that's overrun with disease that has been eradicated since before the 30s, illegal immigration is not what you want.
No, you definitely don't want that. It's interesting too, because when Trump said that they bring their poor, their unwanted, and their criminals, we have to end up here talking about people who come here with no skills.
Yeah.
And so they come here, they take our unskilled jobs, easy jobs, and they don't bring any value, and then they suck the life out of us. And so we have hepatitis in California, we have measles, we have Lambert disease. We also had leprosy. We had 2 cases of leprosy in elementary school. I talk about that on my previous shows. You guys can look those shows up where I talk about that on Facebook. And it's devastating for me because this is my home state. But these people are now claiming our country and claiming our state. So it's something that we're trying to alert you guys who may not say, well, that's California. That never happened to us. And it can happen.
Well, like Kamala Harris, California senator, like she said, California, the United States is going to be like
Oh,
California.
yeah, that's what she's saying.
She said it.
Yeah.
That's what
So
they want. Yeah.
if you don't do anything, if you don't become better aware, and if you don't fight back, as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation.
Someone says online one of the kids brought scabies.
Scabies.
What's scabies?
Scabies is like it's like a rash type of thing that people get. It's almost like chicken pox.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So, these are the things you say, oh, I feel sorry for these people. They come here, they have kids, but then we're responsible for all the diseases. We're taking on the blood of all the taxes. We're the one having our people be homeless, and they don't even hire veterans. One thing I'm going to say, shout out again to Tabitha, a coffee owner, an African-American woman in D.C., in the heart of D.C., who owns her own coffee shop. And we discussed that Starbucks issues, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to hear her synopsis on that case of Starbucks and how Black people can say, look, if you don't want to go to Starbucks, go to your own people's coffee.
Yeah.
Go to your own people's coffee. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, well, if you don't want to, we need more Black businesses. We need more successful Black businesses. And you succeed by providing good service. Okay. And what we saw at this restaurant here, Oohs and Ahs here in Washington, D.C., that was a good prime example of a Black business that provided good service. So they really treated this whole affair tonight very good, and the food was good too. So Oohs and Ahs, they have 2 locations in Washington, D.C., and we have to give a shout out to Oohs and Ahs again.
The guys like Oohs and Ahs. Look, we got a lot of food. We had a lot of food, and people ate the food. So I always say food is good when there's nothing left on the plate. Who else is out there? You guys know any of these people? Hey, Freedom Works, I gotta say shout out to you as well. CCW's out there, Just As Eyes. See it too.
Yeah.
Just as I see it too. Ooh, okay, I ain't mad at you. And they're all out there talking about scabies. I know we talked about that early. I used to watch Shirley in 2008, and then the Black-owned dry cleaners. Yes, we got to continue to own our own business. There's many Black-owned. Black people used to own dry cleaners. What happened?
Oh, yeah.
And the Chinese, again, immigration. We talked about chain migration and these visas. And when they came over, they took our everyday necessity businesses, dry cleaning, little coffee shops, mom and pop clothing shops. People have known to say, oh, those were the Chinese. Well, no, those were African American people first in their own community. When we talk about inclusiveness, we address that too, because that's a really strong buzzword right now. How everyone says we should be inclusive. Do you guys feel after this thing, what do we get out of this inclusiveness thing?
Well, you never, if like I stated this evening, there's an old saying. It's a biblical saying, and since most Black folks are spiritual people, charity first begins at home. It starts with your own family first. You got to take care of your own business first. You got to take care of your own children first. America has to take care of its own citizens first. And among the first citizens, the first people who were brought here to the United States so happen to have been African Americans. So you've got to look at that, and you have got to ask the question, how is this illegal immigration affecting Blacks in the United States of America? And you can only make one conclusion. Overall, it's negative. It's not good.
That's so true.
It's not good. So you got to change it.
If we allow the standards that are in place to commensally change and we don't make a stand, I think we talked about shaking a tree. You want to talk about shaking the tree? What you get from shaking a tree?
Shaking the tree. You got to get people. You got people riled up, people on your side. You can't just be doing things in a laissez-faire kind of way. You got to be enthusiastic and get people to come out, get people to, just do the right thing. Shake the tree from the base, let everybody know what's going on. And I think one thing that was said, I think it might have been Deontay and the lady who was very vocal that was sitting in the center. Mm-hmm. The old way of doing certain things, calling people, they, stop calling this phone, don't call this, don't do that. You got to be doing things like we're doing right now.
I was not there for the fight. I came up and I was like, woo. So there was a lady in the audience with old school hat, y'all. Y'all seen it. We're going to have a videotape. We videotaped this event. If you go to Black Conservative Federation, you can see the event that was fully taped. We did it on Facebook. I apologize for you YouTubers. We couldn't do it live from there, but we are going to be able to get a full taping and you'll be able to see it. And everyone's going to get raw footage. We're going to do more videos off of it. We hope to work together more. We get more sponsor, and then hopefully we'll all start getting paid. We all do this for free for y'all. And, we do this out of the love of our heart because we care about our people. And we love our people. So, okay, so when he's talking about the CEO, shout out to Deontay Johnson, who's the CEO of Black Conservative Federation, who partner up with Urban Game Changers. And he had a difference with a little sister in the audience, y'all. And I came in, I went downstairs. What happened? I came back and I'm like, what's going on? Church up in here. She was schooling him. And he was looking at me. I said, well, you're going to have to handle this lady. What happened, T?
Well,
that was an interesting conversation.
Yes. Well, there were lots of interesting conversations there tonight. Lots of them during the forum. And then even after the forum, there were interesting conversations.
That's true.
I mean, I had one lady walked up to me and she says, oh, I see you online all the time. And so I asked her, you live here in DC? She said yes. And that's the power. That's an example of the power of social media. And that is also why mainstream media, after Hillary lost, that's why mainstream media has been trying to reverse the monkey and put it on social media's back, calling it fake news, when in fact, they are the ones who were fake news because they lied to you all and they told you all that Hillary had it in the bag.
That's right.
97% she was going to be the next president of the United States.
Right.
But then after it was all said and done, the dust had settled. Guess what? It was Donald J. Trump.
It was Donald J. Trump. And then we also talked about how President Trump said he was going to help Black people, but we're not the loudest voice in the room. So right now, other voices are louder on top of legal people and Americans in other capacities, but the Blacks are still being as inclusive, not progressive, but more complacent and pushed down. And how do we break from that?
Well, I think you got to have a game plan as a collective, because a lot of us have ideas, but the ideas differ a lot of times. Like I was saying earlier, we have like little cliques, little groups. Everybody has their own little thing that they want to push forward. And a lot of us are not pushing forward hard enough. If we were to come together and get on one accord and push together as a collective, you'd be able to get more stuff done. But as long as you have little individual groups having their own opinion that are divergent from each other, you're not really going to be able to get anywhere, because people don't know if you're coming or going. They don't know if you want illegal immigration to take over or if you want to stop it, because you got all these different groups that are basically saying the same thing. You got to be able to get to a common accord and just hitch your wagons up to that. If you don't, you're not really going to be able to get anywhere.
No, I totally agree. I'm going to read you something. Freedom Works, he says, we need less government taxation and regulation of businesses in general. Some entrepreneurs simply see the barrel to empty and as too high. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's the barrier to entry.
Yes, thank you. That's too high.
Yeah.
What do you think? Anybody got a comment on that one?
Well, it depends on which area of government you want less government. And I think it sounds like you're talking about less government relative to regulation. And there are certain areas of business where there is a huge amount of regulation. It's a big cost for you to go into that line of business. And there are other areas of business where there's not a whole lot of regulation. It's easy for you to enter that line of business. So it depends on what sort of business you're trying to go into that involves a lot of red tape. Now, the other area too, when we say we want smaller government, as was brought up in this program at Oohs and Ahs tonight in the forum, it was, you have to look at the fact that in America, at least 70% of Blacks work for government, either federal, state, or city, municipality governments. Now, the legacy of that is because after the Civil War, the private institutions in America told Abraham Lincoln, told the federal government, You freed them, talking about black folks, African Americans, whatever, however you want to call it. You freed them, you hire them. So that was a part of that legacy of so many blacks being hired by government. So if you're talking about you want smaller government, just make sure you're not talking about you want to get rid of a lots of employees, because usually the first who you get rid of are usually black people. So be careful about that.
I totally agree with that. We've got like less than 10 minutes left on this video, but so tell me, what is the last thing you guys want to say? Are you happy that we worked together? It's the first time we've collabed. We're trying to get more of us to collaborate. This is about the Black conscious community, and we want more of us here. Shout out to Kiki Green. I know she's not in the chat room. I love my Kiki and Tree of Logic. They wish they could have been here. Next time we'll get them here. Search for Yuri. We're going to say a shout out to him as well. And some black guy, I reached out to you guys. Some couldn't make it, but thank God these two brothers, they answered their phone and they came on board. We want Blackish conscious community people to come together. We may not have the same political party or fully the same ideology, but we do believe in supporting blacks and this inclusiveness. We want to be, we're a little disdain with that. We work with people. We love other cultures, but Wakanda for life. He's saying I'm a war paint on Wakanda for life. Okay, for sure. Anthony, what do you think about that?
I'm with it, and shout out to all of them. These are a lot of good YouTubers, people that have platforms. Like they do what I was talking about earlier, being different, having your own lane, having your own thing that you do. But at the end of the day, we all still kind of want the same thing. If we were to all be in this room right now, I'm pretty sure that we will all agree with each other, at least at the core basis of it. So shout out to all of them. This was a great event. I want to do more stuff like this, being able to come out, collaborate with good people for a common purpose. This is a show that people can have maybe slightly different points of view, but all at the end of the day still want the same thing. So just like T.U.S. was telling me earlier, this was good here, but we need to do more things like this, duplicate it all over the country. So wherever you are, your city, state, particular region, or what have you, you can have an event just like this. Bring a lot of black folks who are conservative, who think differently in one place, and talk about your views. Get out there. This is where you got to do it nowadays. The phone calls, call somebody's phone, wearing them out, text messages. People don't really want to hear that. You got to do things this way. This is the new wave. This is 2018. Behave like it. So that's really the main takeaway from this. And one thing I got to say about the event, Who's Nice Restaurant on Georgia Ave in DC, go there. The food is good. One thing about it was
the food good?
The food was good. The food was good. If you like food, get some there. But
keep going.
Now, the thing about this event was that we didn't have any kind of protesters. It wasn't anybody getting upset. There was no arguing. We were all there for a common purpose. Now, people came up to me afterwards, and some may have not all the way agreed with certain things that I've said in my videos, but we were able to have civil conversations, and that's what this is all about. Having civil conversations and being able to reach a happy conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I got some peach cobbler.
And the peach cobbler was
Did
right.
y'all take some peach cobbler?
No,
I
mine's still sitting over here.
I already ate mine.
You ate your peach cobbler.
Oh, you wasted time.
Hold on.
See, this brother hadn't been too long getting off the plane.
Yeah.
So.
I have not tried the peach cobbler. Had not tried it. Not bad. Oh, got good flavor.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it was nice that we have people with the same kindred spirits. We're always in the warfare as Black conservatives, trying to get other people to have a sensible understanding of our viewpoint. And everybody there was more hungry than they were combative.
Yeah.
Very, very less people who were combative.
People wanted information. People wanted to exchange ideas and have meaningful dialogue. It wasn't just so much about emotional outbursts. It was about really trying to come to some conclusions, get some information, and that was the main point. It wasn't just about, well, I just want to fight. That wasn't what it was at all, and I really appreciated people that came out there for that. So thank you all who were out there. Really appreciate you.
Yes, and it had a lot to do with solutions. I can. My 2-year-old grandchild, she can articulate, Grandpa, I'm having problems with this. She can articulate that. And it's easy for people to talk about problems, but it's a little bit more challenging for people to actually take the time to analyze and then come up with solutions to issues. And when you're talking about matters of politics, and you're talking about political parties, you have three parties, two main parties. You have the Republicans, you have the Democrats, then you have the Independents, and you also have smaller ones like Green Party. But the two powerhouses are the Democrats and the Republicans. And for African Americans, you have to ask the question, what has the Democratic Party done for you lately? You got to ask that question. And in the 1960s, prior to the 1960s, especially the mid 1960s, blacks were voting Republicans, those who could vote. So you're seeing an evolution. You're seeing things revolving right back around more and more towards that. And it is because many of the Democratic officials have taken blacks and their votes for granted. And you have power when you are in a position where people cannot take your vote for granted.
True. That's right. True.
And when you have other choices and other opportunities, then you can bargain, you can leverage that. And numbers are very, very important. Let me just briefly talk about numbers, because when you have, at one time you had a high birth rate for African Americans in this country. It was the highest of all ethnic groups. I mean, it was higher than the Hispanic ethnic group at that time. It's no longer higher than the Hispanic group, but the large part of the reason as to why is because you had millions of illegal immigrants who have entered into the United States. And contrary to what some people say, some of them do, in fact, get on welfare, and they get social benefits and other benefits in various states across this country. But anyway, with numbers, when you have the numbers count when it comes to voting.
Yes.
And when someone in California like Kamala Harris and others add up the numbers and they see that the black numbers in California are not nearly in any way close to the numbers of Hispanics,
right.
Legal or illegal.
Right.
Then guess what? Those politicians are going to put their allegiance to those who have the numbers. Now, numbers.
That's true.
Your numbers have gone down for various reasons. One reason is abortions, but not only abortions, but your numbers have dropped. I'm talking about African Americans, talking about black folks. So you've got to look at your numbers. And more importantly, as important, you also have got to look at and make your politicians accountable to you. Whether they're black or other, they must be accountable to you, or you will continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. It comes to a point where you have to define doing something over and over and over again and the same negative results happening. You have to come to the point where you call that insanity. And I know none of you want to be called that. So we have to change it. We have to flip it.
So last word, gentlemen. First of all, thank you so much for believing in me and giving me a shot to bring us together. We see each other online. We don't know if y'all are all, when we meet these people, we don't know if they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Because, conservatives seem nice and put together, and in person, you don't know what you're dealing with. And I'm telling you, these are two good looking men. And this boy taller than I expected. I thought I was going to get a nice little short brother. Yeah, I had to look up. I said, oh, Lord, let me get my lick stick. There's nice, tall, good-looking men here, ladies. Y'all need to be making sure you watch them. They're both taken already. So.
That's right.
Let me get that.
I ain't get in trouble.
Get home and say, what's she talking about? No, I'm good. I don't want them. But they're nice brothers. That's all I'm saying. We've got to support our men. And I said that today. I talked about, how we got all these metrosexual, bisexuals, transgender men that mess with single women. I'm tired. These are alpha men who are boisterous and very confident in who they are. This is why we need to support these men, and they can mentor your children, your sons, even though they're not physically in person with that person, with those children, with those young men. But I want to say a shout out to men who want to be mentored by alpha black males who are conscious, who are awake, who are educated and who are here to be able to communicate and commune with. As you know, this one, the Eat and Breathe 24-hour live shows more than me and AfriSynergy. So I give a shout out to Anthony because I know he puts a lot of time and energy into his work, and it shows in his numbers. But you know, you can listen to each one of these men and see how they can add value into your life. Let us mentor all of you guys with words of knowledge and reason, and stop thinking that you own a broke plantation, and stop thinking that, you know, capitalism is an evil word and that you have to have some kind of general wealth to get started. We talked about general wealth and no generational wealth. Can you guys, anybody want to lay into that before we go off? Talking about making money, people who don't have no money, but you had successful people there.
Well, generational wealth, if you're talking about generational wealth, well, it's like this. A little less than 100 years ago, in the United States of America, Blacks owned a little more than 15 million acres of land.
Wow.
Okay? Now, today, Blacks own less than 7 million, around about 7 million acres of land. That's less than half of what they owned long prior to the civil rights movement in the United States of America. Now, owning land, having ownership of land, that is the path to economic empowerment. Because when you have land and you have it in the proper way, I know some of you even have land right now, especially in the southern states. That's where the land that Blacks still own is mostly and primarily in the South. Okay,
and it's still feasible to obtain in the South. When you come to California, you're looking at 500,000. You're looking at $2 or $3 million pieces of property, even in the most ghetto parts of California.
Right.
And I'm going to add to what you're saying with land. Land, you cannot make any more land.
That's
what I always tell people. And if you've got grandparents or parents that say, what should we do with this house? Try to keep it in the family. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. My great-grandfather in West Virginia, a Black man now, because people talk about West Virginia was so racist back in the day. My great-grandfather in the 50s and 60s built 2 houses and owns the land. The houses still stand to this day. His daughter, my grandmother, lives in one of the houses, and his son, my uncle, my grandmother's brother, lives in another house. So there's no rent, no mortgage. All I gotta do is pay taxes on like whatever they got, like, and they're good. That's it. We need stuff like that. You know, we're sitting here paying rent constantly. We're trying to pay mortgages rather than passing on property, passing on land to our family members. And if you have land, then you can do a lot with that. You can build on it. Before I came to Virginia, my father owned land. He had a trailer. People would say, oh, yeah, you want a trailer house? But he had a trailer and the land on it. So he could have done anything he wanted with that land. So need to have stuff like that. If you have it, utilize it. Don't just let it go.
Right, especially within the family. And I'm going to judge people who don't have land. Let's say I don't have any land. I was raised in a family where we lived off the government. I don't know where to get started from that. Look, you are on a clean slate right now because technology is free. All 3 of us started a channel with no money. And then we were building our platforms. We got better cameras. We bought little pieces of lights. You know, we put a couple of decorations in the background, and sometimes we just start to spit at the mouth because we're emotionally attached to something that happened at the time. We don't care about how anything looks because we want you to be informed, and then we grow from there. And we look for sponsors, like I looked for a sponsor to get everybody here and to put this event on. And people start believing in us and the message because we have something to value to put on the table. You need to know what your worth is. And I've said this over and over to many of you guys. When we talk about how do you bring value to the table, find kindred spirits. Go to events like what we had with Urban Game Changers and ABL and AfriSynergy all coming together with the Black Conservative Federation. I've told you before, go to meetup groups. Maybe you like to cook coffee. Maybe you like to read poems. Maybe you like to learn how to develop being a pencil maker. You'd be surprised the craziest things I've seen on Meetup. And meet with those people who have like spirits, like ideology and common sense. Because the way you become millionaires and billionaires, listen, is through services and goods and numbers and money. If you work for somebody else, you're going to be limited. You're going to be capped out, or they're going to keep you suppressed because you're making them look bad. You've got to understand your own self-worth. And by doing that, you'll be able to move forward and be a better forward thinker. Tell them where they can reach you guys so we can sign off. And thank you guys so much for watching.
Well, T West, AfriSynergy News. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook. And I'll close by saying this. Land builds. When you keep it in the family, it builds legacy wealth. And the land grant acts made a lots of, especially white Americans, wealthy. Land.
All right. I'm Anthony Brown Logan. If you didn't know, you can find me on YouTube on my channel, youtube.com/alog. That is youtube.com/ALOGE. Go to my website, anthonyblogan.com. Everything is there, Facebook, Twitter, etc. You can find me everywhere. You can find me on more streams with these fine individuals right here in the future. And yeah, just search for me. I'm here. Thank you all for joining us tonight, pardon me, not just me, joining us tonight. And hopefully you see a lot more things like this.
And like I said, with every action is a reaction, for every non-action is aftermath. We were reactive and we acted together to bring a collaborative energy of truth. And we want the Black conscious community to grow. And it grows with many of you guys interacting with us. I want to say a shout out to some of my favorite people. Pam is jamming. Envy Me Greatly is out there. I missed a couple of y'all. I'm going to try to backtrack. Can y'all read some
Lots of Jean and Freedom Work. Shout out to y'all. Love y'all.
Oh my God. And Camilla 80. Is it Camilla out there? The Warriors out there. Again, CCW's out there. Scroll up a little bit more. Some of you guys are popping in just like I said hi out there before too. We appreciate you guys. Some of you guys are loyal fans. You always come to our channels. You give us a shout out. You care about us. I mean, but it's up to you guys to share our videos. Because if we are taking the time to study good content, true content, real news, we need you guys to do your job and just share it with your friend. Put it on your platform. Live stream it when we're live. Say, hey, let them know that all of us are live, and talk to your friends about us. And then tell us what you want us to talk more about. What is in tune with you? I mean, we didn't get in there talking about Kanye West, and we didn't talk about all these other people that don't like people. That doesn't put money, and knowledge makes you grow. And if you're so busy letting your energy be diverted towards people that don't add value, how can we grow as a people caught up in all the BS? It doesn't make any sense. We have times that we spit out and vent, but this was a serious moment to bring knowledge. And so many people came from different areas. That kind of shocked me.
Yeah.
What was it? Maryland? Where else were people from?
Northern Virginia, Manassas. Yeah.
Wasn't they from Pittsburgh? I think she came. We're out in DC, so reach out to us if you're out there, and we'd love to meet with you guys. So long. Bye-bye.
Peace.